Here we go. Here we go. Today, I have two full-size pickups that have 6-cylinder twin turbocharged engines. The Toyota Tundra has a V6 and the Ram has an inline 6. I borrowed these trucks from Karl Malone Toyota and Larry H. Miller Chrysler Jeep Dodge Ram here in Sandy and Draper, Utah. Both of these trucks are available for sale. Let's go ahead and drive the Toyota first, and then we'll drive the Ram right after. This is my first time putting a Toyota Tundra up against any truck on my channel in a while. I want to say the last time I did it, it was probably with a Chevy and a Ford. But this is the first model year for the inline 6 Ram, so let's see how well these engines compare. Now, one thing about the Toyota, I mention this a lot with the Ram. Toyotas have this fake engine noise, and I really don't like it. It sounds, I don't know, it just doesn't sound that great. I guess for me personally, I would like to just have the V6 sound or nothing at all. I mean, hey, it is what it is. The manufacturers decided to do what the government said, and that was to go away from V8s, so you don't have that burly sound anymore. And that's okay, because it seems like people don't want noise anymore. I don't know what to say. But overall, this Toyota Tundra has a coiled rear suspension just like that Ram 1500 does. In fact, you can get air suspension in the rear on the Toyota Tundra, although Ram allows you to have it on all 4 corners. Now, as far as visibility goes, you have these huge mirrors, and it's really easy to see out of this truck. And whew, the power, I'm probably about 30% down, and it just has tons of it. This engine is probably a masterpiece, despite all the issues that people are going to mention in the comment section. I can't wait to see all the negative things people are going to say about the Toyota Tundra. The Toyota Tundra is a good truck, and Toyota's doing right by their customers. They're going to fix every single truck, which is crazy. I wouldn't expect them to do that, but they did it. And overall, I think that you'll see more reliability out of this engine. If you don't know, this is port and injection. Also, this truck is super quiet. There's not a lot of creaks and rattles on the interior, and they really do appoint this interior well. This is a platinum trim. The other truck back there is a Laramie, so they're kind of in the same competition. I would say maybe a Limited might be better suited with this. But let's go ahead and get set up for the 0 to 60 and everything, so you guys can see the performance for that. This is the 3.4 liter twin turbo V6. It's going to be good for 389 horsepower, 479 pound-feet of torque. All that power goes to a 10-speed transmission, 331 rear end. Let's see how it performs. Here we go.
30, 60.
0 to 60 in 7.27 seconds. That ain't bad. I think the Ram's gonna beat it though. So the horsepower is 389. The torque, however, is 479 pound-feet. You really feel that power even after 50 miles an hour. Like, it feels like it has more life in it. The 10-speed transmission shifts very confidently. And I think that, in all honesty, if you're not towing, this is probably the best performing 10-speed in the market. I really like the shifts. They're pretty strong. You have a 450 something, I believe, on first gear. And overall, I mean, I like these big mirrors. These mirrors, you can see around the entire truck. I've done some towing videos with these mirrors, and they perform exceptionally well. Now, as far as the steering goes, the steering does feel a little loose. Let's see if I put it in sport mode. Actually, it doesn't show that it does anything with the steering, so we'll just keep it in eco for the rest of the test here. Now, I do know this. In sport mode, it doesn't have four-wheel drive auto, so that's the only negative with the Toyota. So I wish they had that, because I would have used sport mode. It would have actually done something, but sport mode does nothing for these. I've already done 0 to 60 in the past, comparing with and without it. and it doesn't change. Now, as far as the brake feel goes, let's see. Brakes are solid. They're not touchy, and you don't have to give too much effort to get it stopping. There's no sound, there's no wiggle in the steering wheel. It's this set up very well. Toyota's been pretty good with brakes. We've had a bunch of them in the past. Never complained about the brakes. Now, when it comes down to the overall size of this cab, I've always been under the impression that up front, this truck feels probably one of the biggest. You have these big seat cushions, so if you have that big old butt, these seats are gonna be more comfortable. You also have a thigh support on the front end of the seat too that you can use. The other competitors I don't think have that. And so it's gonna be a 14-way seat. And as far as the interior goes, you have a big 14-inch display, heated and ventilated seats. For 2025, they added the massagers. And let's go ahead and talk about the RPM so you guys can see where we are at 65 miles an hour. Hey, let's get down to 60. I want you guys to see the RPM. So you're just under, what is that, 1,500? You're probably about, I would say you're probably about 1,300 in that ballpark, right? And this is probably, well, it actually just downshifted a little bit. Let's get up to 75 miles an hour. You can see that turbo gauge. I love to see turbo gauges. That's always a plus. So at 75, I won't be able to get there, but there it is. We didn't move much. So that's the beauty of having a 331 rear, because you don't have that 430 from the 5.7. That was a low gear, and those trucks suffered a ton because of it. Now, as far as the fuel economy goes, you guys saw it right there. We're at 16.1. That was with the 0 to 60, right? And overall, I would say that that's pretty good. We should be at the midpoint here in a second, and then I'll check back in with you guys. Here are the numbers on the door. Gross fuel weight rating is going to be 7,275. And then all-in payload is showing 1,300, but you have to subtract 51 pounds here, which is 1,249 pounds. We just got off, and it looks like we're gonna coast down to, oh, actually we're gonna go right through this light. Hopefully it's gonna be the same for the Ram, but midpoint, we are at 16.7, okay? So 16.7 is the midpoint. We're gonna go back the opposite direction. Let's see how loud the interior is to get an idea what it would be compared to that Ram. We're going 60 miles an hour. I'm seeing like 61 to 63. It's like 61 unless you hit a bump. Now if you accelerate, it goes up to 65. Now we're going 70 miles an hour. .62. So not too bad. It doesn't really get that much louder. Now I did lose my little poof thing on the top of this thing. Darn it. I don't know where it went. It's probably somewhere in the truck here, because that's the last time I ever pulled this out, and I don't remember it being missing, but it's still pretty accurate. But if we were outside, it would be way off. But I will say, this is probably one of my favorite half tons, guys. Like, I like the way this truck drives. I just wish the steering was not so vague. That's just something Toyota can never get down pat. Steering, that's the only negative, but the truck is really comfortable. Toyota has the softest springs in the market, so you can rest assured if you're going to be towing a trailer, you might want to get that air suspension. Now, something that the Toyota lacks is temperature gauges. They do give you like a coolant gauge down there, and that's really it. I wish that they would give you like oil and the coolant with like an actual number, transmission. There's just a few things missing, so you never know how hot or cold the transmission is, and that's just really good information to have. Now it's only 48 degrees, so it's not a big deal, but overall that's just the only thing missing. Now you guys can see we're about, I would say, 1,600 RPMs, 1,700 RPMs in there. And yeah, it's really windy today. Like, I'm kind of feeling it on the highway here. I can't wait to drive the Ram back to back to see how it feels. Sometimes I wonder if the coil suspensions make these trucks sway a little bit more than you would like to have. But overall, man, it still feels under control. The steering wheel, you don't feel any of that shift in the steering at all. And yeah, the suspension is just really comfortable. I mean, I could drive this truck for hours. And like I said, or maybe I didn't say it yet, if you want, you now have this. So if you want to put your seat massagers on, you can drive down the road in comfort. We just pulled back in. We'll stop pretty much at this white Ram. 17.9 MPG, 12 miles driven. Stop start works really good on this truck. Let's go drive the Ram. One thing you'll notice going from the Ram to the Toyota or vice versa is how smooth the Ram feels. I almost wonder, because V6s need more balancers and inline sixes are more balanced, I just feel as though these engines perform just slightly better. I even think the power delivery is slightly better. So Ford has a V6, and of course that Toyota does too. And Ram decided to go inline, just like their Cummins, right? 6 in a row, ready to tow. That's what they say. But overall, there's no fake noises in this truck, which is a huge advantage. If there's no way to disable it in the Toyota, it would be annoying for me. Now, someone said you could do it in the radio, and I tried to do it, couldn't find it. So I don't know how to do it. I tried to go through the settings, couldn't find out how to disable it, because I would like to hear what it sounds like without it. Oh, so this engine is a little bit torquey down low, and when you hit it, about 30%, it feels a little bit stronger. It does feel stronger than that Toyota Tundra in that mid-range at about 30% throttle. And it is so quiet. This truck is scary quiet in here compared to the Toyota. So I can't wait to show you guys the sound device again. I couldn't find my little poof thing that goes on top of it, so sucks, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and talk about this Hurricane engine, and then we'll go ahead and do that 0 to 60 next after that. Here's the 3-liter inline 6 twin turbo Hurricane engine from Ram, good for 420 horsepower and 469 pound-feet of torque. All that power goes to an 8-speed transmission. This truck has a 392, which is max tow. Let's see how it performs. Here we go.
30, 60.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner. 0 to 60 in 6.24 seconds. Oh my goodness. Now, I did do that in four-wheel drive auto because the truck has it, so it's fair. I didn't put it in sport mode, I just put it in four-wheel drive auto. And that's the only option I think that Toyota is really hurting themselves on. Get that 2-speed transfer case, Toyota. Let's get it done. Now, that inline 6 delivers the power so insanely. It's like a brute force. It almost sets you back in your seat. And keep in mind, this is not even the high output. This is just a standard output engine. And I'm willing to bet you, if I were to get a iForce Max and put it up against the high output Hurricane, it would be the same story. The Ram would come out on top. I really think that inline 6 design just puts that power down better. And of course, having the four-wheel drive auto, although neither truck, I don't think that it really spins the tires, because you have that turbo lag a little bit. There's a little bit of lag, obviously, and then once it gets going, it's just smooth sailing. But this truck, at higher speeds, because you don't have any engine noises, you do hear more of the outside noise. So that is an advantage of that engine sound, if that's what you like. These mirrors, these are the tow mirrors, they have a ton of functions to control them. This cab feels bigger, but the seats, I think, in the Toyota are a little bit more comfortable. But these are still great. It's very close, but I think I like the seats better in that Toyota Tundra. You have more adjustability. This cab is so much bigger, though. It's not even a competition, and there's no hump in the back. These trucks are also priced about the same. I tried to get very comparable for the weight too. That way it was apples to apples. So really the Limited would be more in line with that Platinum, but then I'd be using a high output Hurricane. So that's why I didn't use a Limited in this test here. But the steering in the Ram, so much better. It's a little bit stiffer or tighter, maybe that's a better word. It's a little bit more tighter. And overall, the transmission, they're both smooth. This truck has a 392, so it has a little bit lower gearing compared to that Toyota Tundra. And I would say that if I had to take these trucks, either one on a long ride, I think I still like the Toyota Tundra just a little bit better. Not by much. I like the ergonomics of the Ram better. Toyota absolutely sucks for infotainment. I'm just gonna say it. We have a Lexus, sucks. It's the worst. I hate it. And I like Toyota so much, I'm willing to put up with it. But I'm telling you, they gotta make their cars more reliable. They have to make them a little bit more fun to drive. And they just have to continue to hold value. Because if they lose reliability and value, resale value that is, you almost have to start looking elsewhere. And that's where Toyota has always been on top. But right now, I'm telling you, this Ram is a really hard competitor for Toyota. And they have to really fix that reliability. They have to do it. The value is still there. Toyota Tundra still hold their value, but the reliability has to be in line. But overall, this truck, it rides good. Let's go ahead and check out the RPMs before we have to get off here. We are running at a little bit higher RPM because we're running a 392, right? So that 392 is going to affect fuel economy as well, but it's okay because this was the only truck that was comparable to that Platinum, so we had to do what we had to do. But even below 60 miles an hour, we're at such a high RPM, and I will recommend, if you are thinking about the 392, unless you plan on running like 35-inch tires, I would just stick with the 321, I believe it is. Here are the numbers on the door for the Ram. Gross fuel equipment is going to be 7,100 pounds. And then all-in payload is going to be 1,580 pounds. Despite that 392, you see that? I tell you, I think that Toyotas have always struggled with fuel economy on their trucks. This shouldn't even be close, but the Ram is in the lead. That is insane. Now the stop-start function on these trucks don't work as good. So yes, it's still on, but that Toyota Tundra, every time I stop, it was like turning off, and I like that. This truck, not so much. And yeah, this truck does have stop-start. It's right there. We waited at that light for like a couple minutes. So we're at 16.2, so we did drop down a good bit. $60 miles an hour. And we are definitely quieter. And you can clearly tell it's a lot quieter. And there's not too many creaks and rattles. I did hear a little creak on this side a couple times. But at 70 miles an hour, or hold on, let me get up to 70 again. I dropped down a little bit. $60. Wow. That is really good. This truck is quieter, and it's very noticeable too. There's not as many hard plastics, I would say. Well, on the dash there's not. There's a little bit more, I think, in that Toyota. But yeah, this truck is noticeably quieter. And I'm going to show you guys some of the temperatures that they show you. This is something that Toyota needs to do really badly. GM is guilty of it too. They don't show you enough temperatures either. So overall, I think that for the type of information you get, the size of this cab, I think if you have like adult kids, this truck would be a little bit more comfortable. There's no hump in the rear, and the price is about the same. You know, Ram, they give them away, so that's where Toyota really hurts themselves, is they don't have as much rebates to compete, so you're going to pay a little bit more for the Toyota Tundra. See right there, you have all your temperatures in one spot. They also show you separately. You don't have a boost gauge. That's the only thing that probably sucks. And by the way, you don't have a dipstick on this truck either. That's a fail on Ram's part. But I just noticed that there's no boost gauge on this truck. So that does go to Toyota. You guys can see the engine hours as well. And they have a nice readout for the fuel economy. Now let's go ahead and check out the RPMs here. We're over 2,000 RPMs at 75 miles an hour. So if I was to get up to 80, we'd probably be at like 21, 22. So you do really increase those RPMs with that 392. So if you're someone that's going to be on the highway a ton, I would skip the 392. You're going to get better fuel economy. And I can always redo these tests in the future when they have a more comparable truck with the Toyota. And I can even go down to lower trim levels because they have a ton of Toyota Tundras, but they don't have as many Rams that are comparable. But yeah, overall, you can pretty much tell that the fuel economy, you're gonna take a small hit on that 392, and that's because you're running at high RPM, so you're gonna be doing 80 miles an hour over 2,000. That's pretty high. We just pulled back in, and here we are. Shocking, isn't it? Shouldn't be. 19.2, 12.3 miles driven. Here's what you have to understand. The Ram has more horsepower, but on top of that, the Ram is a lot lighter. I mean, you guys can see the curb weights down below, right? That Toyota Tundra is heavy. And when it really comes down to it, I feel as though the inline 6 just puts the power down so much better. Now with the 0 to 60, as I said, I did use the auto 4-wheel drive. I don't feel comfortable putting a truck in 4 high, especially a brand new one, because I have to drive down the highway like that. I can't just shift it back into 2-wheel drive. So I'd have to pull over again to do that, and I don't feel comfortable. So the 4 auto, you can do it on the fly, and it doesn't affect anything. But overall, yes, the Ram is faster. It gets better fuel economy, and that's despite the 392. Now, because we were on the highway and because it is a short stint, that 392 will hurt you overall, especially in the city, because you're running at higher RPMs for no reason. So I don't really see the need anymore with these trucks because you have so much horsepower and torque, and you have the 8-speed. Now, back in the day when you didn't have as much power, when you had the naturally aspirated V8s, having lower gearing made sense, especially when you had the 6-speed. But now that you have more gears and you have more power, there's just so much more power in every gear because the steps are shorter. I hope you guys liked the video. This was fun for me today. I was expecting the Toyota Tundra to do a little bit better, but hey, Ram just came out with this engine, so if Toyota decides to do some updates for the refresh, then it might actually close the gap between these two trucks.